Well, the previous panel ended with challenges but also opportunities, and now we are moving to look at open innovation from different perspectives. For practical reasons, for also the presenters to see and hear the others, I will ask one after another to join us. The first contributor speaker is Robert Madelin, Director General for DG Connect, who has very strongly been involved in open innovation development and really can come with new, fresh thoughts. Robert, please.
Thanks, Dubro, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming. I think that the European Commission has been a partner in the development of the open innovation paradigm in Europe since its inception. But this is one of those things which cannot be done from the top down or from a single city outwards. So I think that this is an opportunity for me in person, as for the chairman of our working group over the video, to thank everybody else for being innovators and for coming together here to share your ideas. I think that my own belief as a historian is that the Renaissance was not invented from the top down, but it did come from people worrying around across Europe, across northern Italy. What's going on? What can I share? And I think maybe this is not like Renaissance Florence entirely, although outside the weather's as good, but it's that sort of experience we need to develop. And combinatorial innovation, it may be the quadruple helix, it may be the helix N+1, really depends on us all seeing what can we do together and who else could help us. In the last 5 years, one of the areas where my bit of European endeavor has learned new things about this is in the area of active and healthy aging, the deployment of technologies to help an aging society live better for longer. And in that area, we've had a research agenda for decades. What we did in the last 5 years was to develop a new sort of innovation partnership where in ways that Mr. Markula and Mr. Van Nistelrooy will approve of, we found the missing partners. We found the regions. We found managers of real hospitals in real towns and places. And my experience there has been that this is transformative, because these guys then say to each other, well, you want to explore a new form of patient data records, but you're not sure which way to do it. I've got some stuff you can play with, take over, improve on. And these sorts of real-world partnerships have been the way in which that field, where people were feeling lonely in the north of Italy and lonely in the north of Wales and lonely in parts of Scandinavia, got together with unsuspected partners, but also where in those regions new actors were emerging in teams that previously had been doing the right thing but not with the right people. So I think if there's a human proof that innovation will work, it's when you find somebody new and they also want to do with you what you're trying to do. You'll hear and you'll talk during this conference and over the year around what networks exist in Europe. The Living Labs network, the open services platforms, with Fireware being one of the examples just outside the door. And I think that the opportunity for the open innovation paradigm for people like you is that in Europe, there isn't somebody in Brussels who's going to tell you how to do it. But when you have ideas, there are many different networks into which your ideas can be injected. And I think that the startups in Europe are getting better networked across city and regional and national boundaries. the skills coalitions between employers and trainers and universities in different parts of Europe are going to get very much better networked this year, where it's a big priority of the new Commission. The networks around the innovation and innovative technology institutes, I think they were an idea 6-7 years ago. Now they become a reality. So whatever the ideas are, however many twists there are to the helix, there are now more better networks into which to push the agenda. And I think that those opportunities to make new partnerships and to network better across the European Union and its territories are what we need to rely on, because the money's running out. There's been delicate references already to the fact that top-down big government grants are no longer going to be increasing year on year ahead of inflation. On the contrary, they're slightly under pressure here as elsewhere. So I think that we're not just looking at smart innovation and smart cities, but also smarter financing, and the Juncker innovation package, which is as much about innovative financing as about grant funding, is an opportunity there. And I think that what we now need, therefore, to look at in the digital single market of Europe is firstly to keep tearing down the barriers, and secondly to keep building up the partnerships, but thirdly to keep working with those who are the sources of funding, who in Europe today are not necessarily plugged into those opportunities in every town and city. Greece, you look at the newspapers, and as Mr. Van Nistelrooy and Mr. Markku was saying, it's taking a lot of time. We haven't found the solution yet. But this week in my bit of Brussels, there are people who are innovators, financing for innovators, and just local citizens who want to help getting together to say, isn't it time we did something more for innovators in Greece, for innovation in Greece? And so I think there's a huge willingness to do more, to build more in this continent, even in the places where you think it's all about problems. And the key for open innovation is to put the solutions that come out of this paradigm within reach of people who want to do things. So I think that's the opportunity we have here. And I think the mere fact that most of what we shall do in terms of person hours this week in this town have got nothing to do with sitting in meetings like this is the big proof of success, that we're going to get out there and see things and meet people. So I'm pretty confident that this is the sort of seed from which we can build more better stuff in the crucial years ahead. Thank you.
Thank you for those encouraging, challenging words as well, because certainly open innovation is to make things happen. And it is really one of the program design objectives, to make you mingle, to make you agree, to make you have those positive collisions for new. With these words, I invite Professor Konno to his presentation. And really, I'm very glad to have him here, because he's coming from, well, he's the president of the Japan Innovation Network and also the Future Center Studies group, very much looking at the future, what we are all also here creating. Professor Konno, please.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay. Hey, I'm from Tokyo. Thank you very much. First of all, congratulations to the conference, and thank you very much for the invitation, Mr. Samlan and Mr. Markula. Like many of you, I live in the two different worlds. One is our world of research and studies on knowledge creation and innovation. And the second world is the world of practice as a consultant advisor to the companies. Today, I'd like to share two concepts are from our small corner of the world, I mean Far East, if you like, which I think important as a basis of open innovation. Because we believe that the open innovation idea still needs more theory to understand the nature and to implement it. I said that the share, but actually it's to revisit, because in Finland we have had a couple of opportunities to share the idea of knowledge creation. I will introduce later with our big guy. But before I start, I'd like to make the 2 minutes introduction regarding my two activities. Do I use this? Yeah. Two activities is about two organizations. One is JIN, Japan Innovation Network. And then second is FCAJ, which used to be called Future Center Studies Group, but it's now Future Center Alliance Japan. First, this Japan Innovation Network is kind of unique, meaning unique because we have unique board members. Today we have a couple of our colleagues, Mr. Ando, who is an ex-president of Sony, and Mr. Nishiguchi and Ryoko. And well, we are unique not only having Ando-san, but the people like Beam? Yeah. Professor Ikejiro Nonaka, who is the founder of knowledge creation theory, and Tom Kelly, he's from IDEO, our design innovation, etc. So we're unique in having very interesting and unique and talented advisors. And some of you have recognized from this area, Mr. Leif Edvinsson from Lund University, and so on. But we are also unique as being our innovation accelerator in Japan, which is unique, I think. Actually, our motto is, now is the time that large corporations should innovate. In Japan, a lot of talents and resources are shifted toward the large companies, not like California. So we have to have our own situation, and our policy, as a national level as well, is to motivate large companies to reimagine its organization's ideas to make it into the world of innovation. That's a kind of national policy, the kind of consensus we are actually heading for. And this is to confront the great transition and the radical challenges over time. In Japan, since Fukushima, we have had many environmental challenges and societal challenges, aging, etc. So many challenges that the large corporations should tackle. No time. That's a kind of an agenda. So economic, societal, environmental issues. We have to tackle these issues, utilizing and sharing rich resources of our large companies as platforms. This is about the Japan Innovation Network. I will touch on this organization as well later. Another organization is FCAJ, Future Center Alliance Japan. This is the network of organizations who run innovation acceleration environments, namely future centers, innovation centers, and living labs in Japan. Here are some companies, member companies, and where Professor Leif Edvinsson and well, I'm missing it, but and Mr. Hanke Kune, who organized the AXI, the Camp for Societal Innovation, is our advisor, our advisors. And we have some members of FCJ from Tokyo as well, like Maijala-san here. So we have 6 or 7 Japanese group here today. So this is about my what we are doing as for our innovation. Now, the first concept I want to share or revisit is knowledge creation. Knowledge creation. But knowledge creation as an innovation process. The interest here is what is the actual process of open innovation? Knowledge creation is, as you might know, is explained as dynamic interaction process of knowledge, two types of knowledge. Actually, innovation is a process of creating a novelty in organizations and society. This knowledge creation model explains the interaction of two types of knowledges, which is tacit knowledge based on your physical brain, and explicit knowledge, which is based on your cellular brain, intellectual brain. And the knowledge creation is explained as you might know, as interaction or helix over these two types of knowledges. Tacit socialization means capturing a customer's insight, for instance, sharing your physical experiences, and the externalization of that tacit knowledge into external knowledge is called externalization, meaning creating concepts, for instance. Then combining explicit and explicit knowledge, which will end up with the prototyping, is another process. And then finally, the created the explicit knowledge is embedded into the customer's life and society again, which is called internalization. So this is kind of a process of knowledge creation. This also explains other methods like design thinking, you know. Design thinking is usually explained as a process of observation, getting customer insights, ideation or brainstorming, and prototyping, putting all things together, and storytelling, that is in nature embedding knowledge into customer's life or to the society. As I said, we participated in AXI yesterday, which is very exciting, Aalto Camp for Societal Innovation. And the AXI is also designed as process of knowledge creation for months, actually 9 months, socializing to idea, a prototype, and practice. That 3 days wasn't just workshop sessions. Workshop sessions itself doesn't do anything for innovation. That's only our starting point for innovation. So that's the kind of a process we are talking about here. And probably might have heard this kind of model before, but we have been evolving the theory to the other roles like open innovation and societal innovation. Because the model is not only for organizational internal knowledge creation, but it also can be applied to open innovation, which is knowledge creation between the organizations or agents. Eventually, it is the knowledge creation among the communities and companies and the cities sometimes. That's a kind of elaboration. Well, this is kind of abstract story. Maybe this is kind of like a university lecture. Let me share some actual cases. In Japan also, open innovation is a hot topic, in demand and growing. And in, say, areas of pharmaceuticals and materials engineering, for instance. There's some example. Fujifilm. Unlike Kodak, after it survived the collapse of the camera film industry, now it tries to create business and markets through open innovation. This is their newly created open innovation hub. This is me actually. this is Open Innovation Hub. This is to create business and market through open innovation, sharing their core technologies around films at large. Films are not just the film cameras, but films for your skin for sometimes. There are a lot of core technology around the umbrella of films. So they have created this kind of a space or bar, or I will explain, to do a knowledge creation process. This is their interpretation of knowledge creation processes. Japanese firms tend to think open innovation not mere trading of IPs for efficiency. Maybe some companies think open innovation is good for your R&D efficiency, for cost. But that's one thing. But the Japanese companies tend to think open innovation is not that, but rather co-creation or co-innovation for the society. That means the purpose of open innovation matters. Yeah. Another example. This is the project in Osaka, Kansai area near Kyoto for healthcare ecosystem, which is one of our FCAJ activities. 6 companies from 6 different sectors in the region are forming the alliance to co-create the future of ecosystem in order to envision, build, and test. For instance, companies like Daikin, the number 1 largest air conditioning company, Nitto Denko, the equipment maker Suntory, water and the drinks, and the Shionagi Pharmaceuticals, and the Hankyu Railway, and the Osaka Gas Energy Company, and the Development Bank of Japan. These companies form an alliance. How it works? This DBJ, our core member of FCAJ, functions as our future center of these 6 companies. And they see our kind of the vision and the ideas. And these guys, like Suntory or Daikin or whatever, create prototypes at their R&D centers or innovation centers and bring them and pack into the living labs like Osaka Gas, the forms, or Hankyu Railway stations, for instance. This kind of our future center, innovation center, living lab kind of processes are model which we are looking at. Here, as I said, I think it's important to know why we should do open innovation beyond efficiency. I think the purpose, very subjective matter, is a very, very important ingredient for open innovation. Without that, it just becomes mere trading of IPs. And we need lawyers. Yes, of course, we need lawyers anyway. So ultimately, we're looking at some kind of common good through open innovation to create a better society. Well, I think that there's a lot in common with Open Innovation 2 ideas here in Europe. Second, the concept I'd like to share is the concept of a bar. The interest here is what's the source and the actuator for open innovation to put it into practice from just thinking. Bar is a Japanese word for place or shared context among us. It's a place and a moment of intersubjective, physical, practical, mental, virtual, but mostly importantly, physical face-to-face interactions. Bar, what people say, bar sounds like a bar. Yes, it is a bar. Bar is a bar. But in short, in the Finland case, it's a sauna. Sauna is a bar. Sauna, through our observation, is a place to put things forward into practice in business. So sauna is a bar, theoretically, I think. Well, it's a kind of half joke, but for knowledge creation, bar is critically important, as it is not the mere condition of knowledge creation, but it is a source or well of knowledge, because we have to be here and now to do innovation. We can't do the innovation by your Googling. We have to be here now to capture the true value and true purpose of innovation. To capture insight, dialogue, create, persuade, and evolve. So quality of BA matters. So BA reflects, anyway, the thought of the Orient, the boundary of you and I, or human and nature, or they are not separated. They're not independent, but be experienced as one. Maybe you experience in sauna, right? BA reflects this concept of BA maybe extend to communities and cities. Think of BA like axis, connecting university, government, and communities, and works as kind of a boundary object to break barriers and connect communities. That's the essence of social innovation, we believe. In a corporate setting, another example from Japan Innovation Activity. In a corporate setting, our research shows it's important for innovation to have both top management commitment and creation of BA within the firm. What we do at Japan Innovation Network is that we promote the idea of second layer or double-decker management for innovation. Is to create the second deck here, or second layer, for it's an internal innovation ecosystem for exploration and experimentation upon the present business. Because we believe that today's business and tomorrow's new business need totally different skills and KPIs, key performance indexes. So you have to divide it, but it is an essential top management role to balance the two. And ecosystem, what I say, or BA, is made up these 5 elements. I don't have time, so I don't touch each by each, but executives, top management commitment, innovator himself or themselves, catalyst or accelerator, are processes and infrastructure. And one of them, even one of them, mustn't be locked. That's the idea. And at the upper level only, we could introduce the methods like design thinking, or business model generations, lean startup, etc. If you mix 2 of these, you'll be pulled by the gravity of a present business. So you become like a Kodak. So you have to separate and manage the 2. Okay? That's our hypothesis and what we're trying to do. Such internal innovation ecosystem are connected to external ecosystems, of course, forming networks of shared BA. That's the open innovation ecosystem. I think this is very, very common with your open innovation 2.0 idea, I believe. Finally, since we are talking about 2.0, I have to talk about I should talk about the future, but I'd like to talk about the before 1.0. A short story to share. A long time ago, in the 1980s, Japanese companies were a headache for the US industry because they were suffering from the Japanese invasion to their market. But the US studied very carefully Japanese management and found out 2 concepts to tackle, which were keiretsu, and lean manufacturing. Or there are a couple of others, but there are 2 major ideas to tackle. Keiretsu was a network, but in a closed context. Yeah? It's kind of difficult, and the United States didn't like it. So they invented in return, or instead, an idea of, around here, idea of virtual enterprise or web-based keiretsu with an open context, which eventually became or formed a basis of open innovation. That's the Open Innovation 0.0. We believe symbolically it's called the California model, like a Chessborough's innovation model. It's called California model, that's why. Now we think this area is important. Of course, we should be open context, but still we should be organic. So we should head for this system. And last month I was in Palo Alto and meeting a couple of people. And even in Palo Alto, we have seen the organic and open network is important in the 21st century. California, Palo Alto is changing from social media business to more societal innovation or infrastructural level of innovation. They're moving to this as well. And also from lean manufacturing, eventually the concept of lean startup was born. During the process, the concept of agile, etc., was born, but it is to innovate from here and now, bar is here and now place, with the customers and develop into value cycle beyond the bureaucratic constraints of large organizations by empowering to the site or bar. So the heart of Keiretsu and the lean startup is bar, so as for innovation. So you just can't do this while sitting at your desk. So like this afternoon, we have to explore the real world, which is bar. You need bar. Well, Japan, like Europe, we are struggling now and trying to design new generation of our society and industry. It's a hard task, but looking back, Innovation 0.0, then looking ahead, Innovation 2.0, in a much larger sense, in a much larger picture, humans are evolving through these innovations. So believe that creating and connecting bar for collaboration are important for our future. So we are happy to do so with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Konno. The analogy of different bars are very, very interesting, and of course I hope that we at least create a virtual bar here for fruitful interaction. And I think we could also welcome here the virtual audience, because this event is webcast. So again, having a wider audience that you see around us is very important. And then we can also see how we jointly, well, us here and the virtual community are elaborating the platforms forward. I call now Ms. Riitta Maijala to come with her insight from public sector, from ministry perspective, what open innovation really is and what it can be. Please.
So, Mr. Chair, thank you very much for kind words. My name is Riitta Maijala. I'm coming from the Director of Science Policy in Ministry of Education and Culture. And I bring, first of all, greetings from Permanent Secretary Anita Lehikoinen. We are lucky to have a new government working already now, and she's very much engaged in drafting the implementation plan, and therefore she sends her best greetings for all of you. I will talk about from government point of view, and I will bring up two concepts which I think run through the whole discussions we have, which is the competence and change of culture. And that's one or two things which actually build up how we can see also open innovation in future. If you look back a bit like 100 years, Finland has been changing a lot. We have been a very agriculture-oriented country, lot of machinery, engineering and forestry. And in very short time, compared to most other countries in the world, we have been changing to post-industrial society. So you can see that innovation capacity has been there already before we were even born, and it has been there to support our change to have a high living standard in Finland. So innovation is something which is certainly not new for us, but the speed and challenges we have and face today certainly warrant for new actions, new decisions to be made.
The third
Finland has been investing a lot for innovation capacity. We have most researchers per inhabitants in the world, and we have also had a very high share of public funding and private funding for R&D out of the GDP. Unfortunately, due to last year's recession, this situation is now changing, but still it stays among the highest in the world. And no doubt we are also in many scorings and indexes scoring as a first or second in innovation scoreboards, in the human capital, in different ways of how we can change societies. So we are certainly having, and we have had, a good capacity for innovation. The discussions we are facing today is that how actually this innovation capacity can turn into new innovations which also sustain and help to transform our economic life, our societal life, to have further profits and further new ways of working in Finland and also more worldwide. So we need to find a way how innovation will change the culture, how we work. Open Innovation 0.2 is certainly an interesting phenomenon. It has a lot of interesting aspects, and I think one of the most important one is this collaboration, cooperation. We don't have only universities and industries. We have government, we have citizens, we have users. So it's really going together and work together and trying to find solutions. And in order to find solutions, first you have to find the problems. So this really is talking, and I was very happy for the Japanese example about how to create a bar to share ideas and share problems maybe first. And that's an excellent idea. We want to have more rapid diffusion of knowledge. That's certainly very, very important for us. But if we want to do that, we have to have a competence. We have to have people who are willing to share, who trust each other, who can actually find out new innovative approaches, whatever field they are working in. And therefore, it all begins on children. In Finland, we have had a very inclusive primary education where everyone, regardless of the gender, their nationality, their geographical location, they have all access to excellent teaching environments in Finland. But even that is now under discussion because we have to change our teaching environments. Maybe we follow the model of Aalto has here to find a new environments which actually engage these digital natives who are now entering the school and bring them new learning opportunities. And that's something the government is now looking for very much to promote and support that one. We also have adults, and this is a result of OECD PIAC study which was analyzing the basic abilities of the adults, and we can find that our adults are one of the top people in OECD. So the competence again is there, but how we can change the culture, that entrepreneurship is more valued, because we know that it's something we have to work a lot with all adults, that entrepreneurship is not something that you should be afraid of. You should be able to take it on your work, you have to join, you can bring your value and knowledge and then work further. So about higher education, research and development area. This is something where we have been working quite much, and we actually have had many reforms. The result of one is Aalto University, as we heard already before. By merging 3 different institution universities together, we found that we can now have very new novel approaches, very innovative even facilities, and we are very happy to see the progress of this university, among the others. We have also recently had a reform in polytechnics, which is a University of Applied Sciences, also to promote their innovative capacity and also their relation with the outside world, the business partners or the social sector, for instance. And we're also discussing much now about structural development of higher education institutions, universities and polytechnics, which means that we should have our resources allocated better and they should have more collaboration among each other, but also with outside society. I think one important issue is the cooperation also in science and research area. We have had a very important reform of state research institutions and research funding, which resulted in the mergers of some institutions. And also now a new process has been initiated to support the collaboration between universities, polytechnics and research institutions. And not only with them, but also to allow this kind of center excellences to be established around the country with different disciplines, and therefore also supporting our innovation capacity in Finland. We have also been discussing and emerging having new instruments for competed research funding. This is a tool which has certainly big impact about how researchers work, what kind of ideas they will propose, and there have been new ways in these both institutions. Research infrastructures are something which we are very happy for the European progress. The European S3 process has been a way how we can collaborate better with other member states and with the Commission to enhance our ability to cooperate and use the infrastructures together, and also then jointly with the business sector, which then further promotes innovation capacities. We also have the other developments which are our basic funding for the polytechnic university. That's under discussion now. We discuss a lot how that basic funding could reflect better also the impact of these organizations. That's under discussion at the moment. And we also have lots of other methods and other processes in line which try to bring all the players together to have more of these bars to exchange ideas and use and learn from each other. So all this development, this education sector is really trying to support and push a bit the culture change that we can work easier together. And also at the same time that we actually are able to build up competencies for young children and young people that they actually can change this world. So it's not only about people and it's not only about the business, it's not only about the structures, it's also about the knowledge itself. And there I just give briefly two examples about how we are expanding knowledge sharing with digital tools. First is about culture, because we believe that culture is something which is important, evidently important for inclusive society, but also a very innovative society. And that's why we have built the National Digital Library System, where we have all the cultural heritage digitized and available for everybody. So not only for students, not only for citizens, but also for business sector, for higher education institutions, and also our collaborators outside the borders. And that's a very valuable asset, and if you have time, you can find it more easily in the finland.fi place. Another part which is very important and very close to Open Innovation 0.2 is open science and research. We are currently working in the Open Science and Research Initiative in Finland, since we believe it has many benefits, many assets it can provide for us. It certainly can increase the quality of science, intrinsic nature of science, its verification, and openness are something which we want to promote to increase the quality of science itself. But when we have open science, it also increases the impact of science for society. Information flows not only from researchers to researchers, but also to business sector, to decision makers, and it also can engage citizens much more easier than before. Open science also, when it's opening up data, methods, and publications, can be used for teaching and lifelong learning. So it provides a lot of tools and processes which education and learning transformation taking place can benefit about. Open science is really something which we also want to support the trust in science. Because we want the citizens to participate in open innovation processes, they have to trust, they have to understand what they are participating in for. And therefore the citizen science and open science are very much close to the Open Innovation 0.2 targets. So I want to conclude with a government program. As you can see, here are our strategic priorities, and there are many. There are many things about sustainable growth and public finances, employment, education, well-being. And it's not difficult to conclude innovation and innovative approaches are needed to be able to fulfill all these targets. There are some key projects under pipeline now which we are planning, which really hopefully will change the learning environments, will support closer collaboration of higher education institutions and business sectors locally and nationally and internationally, and they are all now aiming for this issue. And once our permanent secretaries, our ministries have been working a bit more, we know more clearly what will happen in practice. But this is again a challenge, and it shows that in order to fulfill this goal we have now in the government program, we need to have a competent people everywhere in the society, and we need to be vigilant to change our culture for a more open and innovative approach. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you indeed for that very, very important speech. Because if I look at, for instance, the governmental priorities, well, of course, reading with the Open Innovation 2.0 perspective, what was remarkable is the statement to move towards an experimental society. That is really unique and haven't seen ever before in the Finnish governmental program. Exactly as the previous speaker, let's see how it's happening. What kind of actions are a consequence of that. To complete this session, we have now the industrial perspective on open innovation. What does it mean in practice? Intel Corporation, Veli-Pekka, Vatula, please.
So first of all, thanks for the organizers about the opportunity for being here and talking to you. So like you said, the practical approach. Like from the heart, I'm an engineer, and I would like to bring you some bits and pieces, the practical ones, that what is actually happening inside the big organizations, because they are also living through this change that we are all in. So like I said, from the heart I'm an engineer, which makes me very excited about the new technologies, new innovations, and new possibilities that are out there. I find myself sometimes even talking about those at home to my better half, and then I'm getting back that kind of a gentle, smiley face that, okay, why should I actually care? I got so fascinated about these different technologies that I tend to forget that what they are actually done for. What is the purpose and the kind of a value for the end users and the customers and to the society for this technical evolution? Traditionally, the corporations are organized so that we are dividing the technology development into different organizations, kind of isolating all the best minds to work on that certain technology in a one team, in a one group. They tend to have the mindset that they are starting to develop the technology from the technology sense. Sometimes it feels that they don't kind of do it for the customers or for the end users. It feels that they do it for themselves to develop the technology further. Or at least that's how one might look at it. So I wanted to start to work on the innovations and getting really to the bottom of the thing that, okay, how do we start to change this kind of a behavior also in the corporations? So I took an opportunity and I started to work on the Intel internal program, which was a regional one, which included, of course, the engineering, but also, for example, the finance, the HR even, and the lawyers that were talked about already today as well. And we started to gather the different ideas, the different inventions from the crowd. And we started to combine the similar kind of ideas together, and we started to form teams from the different disciplines to work further with that idea. And it was extremely amazing to see how much those ideas actually developed further during the idea development phase, when we had the different kind of persons from the different backgrounds working together with that idea. And I think that's one of the fundamentals of this Open Innovation 2.0 as well. The other thing in the program that I found extremely interesting was actually the stakeholder management. In this context, this means that all the different players that should kind of adapt your idea, that who you should be influencing and so forth. The interesting human mind behavior that I discovered was actually then in the business group side, the ones who had the sole ownership of a certain business to whom we had a new idea, which we have developed and we have analyzed. Because the human mind tends to work in a way that if the idea comes from someone else, we tend to ignore, especially if we feel that we are having the sole ownership of that particular domain. So one challenge which I think that we all should face and kind of actively think ourselves that how do we deal with this is that we should be openly listening to other ideas which are coming kind of from the others. So I wanted to continue my experiment on the innovation side, and I thought that maybe I should change a bit of a job, so I went actually then to the business group, because then I cannot anymore blame anybody of not buying the idea. And I started to work on the client innovation platforms project, in which actually my job is now to find all the new interesting ideas and the technologies from internally from the company and also from the external collaborators, like the universities, the small companies, big companies, whomever. The very interesting thing in here is that when we start to talk with these guys who are developing the technology, or the ladies of course as well, the interesting discussion that I ran into them with every single time is that, okay, you are having this fantastic idea that you want to change the world. You can see it clearly there somewhere, and you want to get there, and you want to get there now. The interesting discussion is that, okay, practically what is the first step that you gotta take? What is the first viable step towards that goal? And getting the engineers or the idea owners to kind of start to walk that path with you, that, okay, what are the paths, the practical step of getting there? That is the most kind of inspiring discussion, at least for myself. At the same time, for sure, I can see the pain on the faces of the guys who are having these great ideas, that now you are kind of asking me to scale down and starting to deliver something concrete towards my goal. So why I'm doing that? There are a couple of things. First of all, from the human behavior perspective, my own observation is that if you are giving an unlimited time to innovate, it actually doesn't make it any more better. Adding a bit more stress and some practical goals that you need to start delivering and experiencing what you actually did and delivered actually makes the idea grow and grow and form to the practical innovation. More and more faster you kind of fail, re-evaluate your idea with the more you. English is sometimes hard for a Finn. More you kind of iterate your idea and fail fast, the better the idea will actually be, and you learn more from it. Of course, when working then with the external parties in this same context, like one already said, it involves lawyers. For sure, then the trust is something that comes to the table. And because we need an openness between all the parties that are working in that particular technology or with that particular innovation. How do we build it so that none of the parties in the consortium doesn't feel that someone is kind of stealing their ideas, or that someone else gets the benefit out of it? So creating this kind of a consortiums where we find the win for every participant is also extremely crucial. And that is something that I think we all should take into account when we start to do the practical steps towards the Open Innovation 2.0 implementation. So I think I would like to conclude at this point. I'm fairly sure that we have some time challenges already. So by saying that I'm fairly sure that in this current fastly changing environment with these challenges that have been described, the ones that survive and will win are the ones who have enough courage to openly discuss their ideas, and who are also willing to test their ideas with the people from the different backgrounds, and who have enough courage to fail and fail fast and learn. With this, thank you.
Thank you for all your contributions. Looking at the timetable, what I invite you now is to have a look at the exhibition during the coffee pause, mingle, create collisions, and come with new ideas related to actions. This is all about making a win more game by sharing. Please come back in time for the next plenary, where we will jointly dig deeper into the topics. Thank you.